Hi everyone and welcome. I'm Emma and this is where I chat about all of my knitting and crocheting. I hope you're all well. It has been a very long time since I last uploaded a podcast or anything like that. I've had a few tutorials in the meantime, but not a proper sit down and chat video. So I thought it would be nice to come on and give you all a little update with what I'm working on at the moment and what projects I've got on my needles. It is very nearly the end of 2024 now. It's the 19th of December today when I'm filming this. So I thought it was a good time to film a video like this so I can sort out what projects I'll be taking forward into the new year with me and what I'm hoping to get finished off and so on and so forth. It has been that long since I last filmed a proper podcast. I'm not going to try and catch up or anything with any of the projects on there. If there was something that I was working on and I don't mention it in this video and you'd like to know what happened to it, just leave me a comment and I'll let you know. But let's start with what I've got on the needles at the moment. So if you follow me on Instagram, I'm on there as Emma C Makes as well. I'm also on TikTok now. Although on TikTok, I'm actually still reposting some of my old content. I'm trying to get it up to date. If you follow me on there, you will have seen that I'm making a Moby sweater, the junior version. This is a project for Isla. I'm going to hold it up to show you. So Isla was writing a birthday list a couple of months ago, and on that list she had seen a jumper that was very similar to this. It had the crisscross pattern in the middle and kind of cable details and things like that. It wasn't exactly the same. And the thing with the shop bought one was the pattern was only on the front. The back of the sweater was completely plain. And as soon as I saw it, I said, well, I can make something like that for you because I already had the Moby sweater in mind. And originally this was meant to be for her birthday. It was her birthday yesterday, so I've not got it done. But hopefully I will get this done for her for Christmas. She's fine with it. She's very obliging, bless her. And I also want this to be, I want it to be perfect because it's a gift for her. I could probably have got it done if I'd worked flat out and rushed it, and I know what happens because I've done that thing before. You end up really hating the project that you're working on. You end up making lots of mistakes. The tension is never perfect and things like that. And I found that it just never works out well. And I would rather take my time and be able to gift her something that is perfect to the best of my abilities than give her something that I'm not happy with, that later on I'll regret and wish that I'd taken my time over more. So I'm using Drops Lima to make this. This is a wool and alpaca mix. It's incredibly reasonably priced. I've used this recently for so many projects because it's just amazing yarn. It comes in some beautiful colours. There's some really soft muted shades. Because it's not superwash and because it's all 100% natural fibres, I can splice the yarn together as I'm working it, so there's not many ends to sew in, which is always a bonus, and it's working up really beautifully. So I'm going to bring this a little bit closer. This is quite possibly the most complicated sweater that I've ever made. But saying that, the whole process has actually been incredibly enjoyable so far. If you've not made this sweater before, or any of the PetiteKnit's similar sweaters, it follows the same construction. So you'll start on by casting on the neck, and you'll work it flat and do your short rows to do your increases and things, and you'll end up with a back panel. You'll then have to go and pick up stitches to work both of the shoulders and the left and the right front. And then it ends up with the entire thing joined in the round, and then it's easy peasy. And you're just going round and round and round. And it's exactly the same pattern more or less on the front as the back. I think the mock cable section in the centre is slightly different. It doesn't match up exactly, but for all intents and purposes, it's exactly the same on the front and the back. And then that lovely cable pattern continues down the sleeve as well. It needs a good block because I've been magic looping, and I have really been trying my hardest not to pull too tightly on the cable section down the sleeve, so I'm hoping that that blocks out nicely. But the thing to know with this sweater as well, it is pretty much entirely charted. There is very, very little written instructions, which is not a problem. I used to be quite scared of knitting from charts. I don't know why. I actually find them a lot easier to work from now. I find them a lot simpler visually. You can see where the stitches are, whether everything's lined up. You know, you can see where a stitch should sit in relation to other stitches. So don't let the fact that it's charted put you off. Once you get the hang of it, I promise it's really simple. And the pattern is incredibly repetitive anyway. By the time I had joined the entire thing in the round to work the rest of the body, I barely had to look at the chart. It was more a case of just a quick glance at the start of each round to double check where I was on the mock cable section in the middle, but the rest was absolutely plain sailing. So this has been a really, really enjoyable knit. It's finished off on the bottom with an Italian bind off, which I've only actually done, I think I've done it about 3 times now on 3 different projects. I find the hardest thing with an Italian bind off is avoiding yarn tangles. So it's basically kitchen a stitch. So if you've done kitchen a stitch on a sock, you can do an Italian bind off because it's the same thing more or less. You're just going through and pairing some stitches and slipping them off and so on. But in order to do that, you have to pull off quite a long length of yarn so that you've got enough to go all the way around the sweater. And I did have to deal with some yarn tangles, although because there's only 1 strand of yarn for this pattern, you're not holding anything double. That actually wasn't too bad. I'm also making an Ingrid sweater, which I'm going to show you in a moment. And in comparison, the Ingrid sweater was a complete and utter nightmare. Not the actual Italian bind off, but just the yarn getting tangled. So now that I've chatted about the Moby and I've mentioned the Ingrid sweater, I suppose I may as well show you it and chat to you about that as well. So hopefully the next time I come back on to show you, this will be completely finished. I'm making it for like Isla's, I'm making age 9. It was her 10th birthday yesterday. So as you can imagine, it's really tidgy. Honestly, I think knitting sweaters for size, age 9 is the way to go. It's been so quick in comparison. Let me show you my Ingrid sweater. This is also a pattern by PetiteKnit. It is absolutely enormous in comparison. In fact, I don't think I can get it all in the screen. Oh yes, I can. So I decided that I wanted more oversized knits. A lot of the hand knit sweaters that I've got in my wardrobe are quite fitted. I'm wearing my Woolen Honey at the moment, and this is probably, the most oversized sweater that I've got. And I mean, it's not very oversized at all, as you can see. So I want some more big, baggy, oversized sweaters that I can get really cozy in, that I can wear over leggings or skinny jeans and things. Yeah, and that I can get really nice and warm and cozy in. So I originally planned to make the Moby sweater for myself, and I bought the yarn for it. I came across a yarn combination on Ravelry when I was looking through the project pages, and I really liked this particular combination. And it was Drops Lima, the same as I'm using for Isla's, in the colour chalk, and it was held together with Drops Alpaca silk, which is very similar to mohair but a lot fuzzier. And yeah, so I got that to make the Moby, and then at the last minute decided that I wanted to make the Ingrid sweater instead. I think I got a bit scared off by the cables on the Moby. I'm not very experienced at knitting cables. I mean, they're easy peasy. I don't know why I was frightened, but I decided to knit the Ingrid instead. And I definitely think that having the alpaca silk, I think that has made the process a lot harder. It's meant that, you know, my needles have got caught on things. It's made the mock cable section in the middle a lot more difficult to do. This second mock cable section here, this big one, was honestly such a slog. It was such a slog. They're not difficult to do. So the cables have to lean either left or right. And the way that you do them is not difficult, but it was difficult because of the alpaca, because my needles kept getting caught on things, because it's so fluffy. I kept picking up the wrong strands and things like that. So I've definitely made life harder for myself with that yarn combination. I'm also a little bit regretful because I think it's obscured a bit of the lovely pattern. Yeah, when I see other people's Ingrid sweaters and when they're not as fuzzy as this one, I think they do look nicer. But on the plus side, this is lovely and thick and warm. It feels incredibly heavy. It's going to be so nice and cozy. So there are pluses, but it's not a yarn combination that I would rush to go back to, basically. I don't have the yarn here. I'm going to put in some B-roll so you can see the yarn together. The other problem I had, because I originally bought the yarn to make the Moby, is that I didn't have the right quantity for the Ingrid sweater. I just assumed that if I had enough to make the Moby sweater, that I'd have enough to make the Ingrid, and I ran out after this point. I knew that I wasn't going to have enough, so I've just completed the body. I've still got the neckline and obviously both the sleeves to do. So once I'd finished that, I had to order some more. That's waiting upstairs. This full project has been popped back on the shelf for the moment, just while I concentrate on Isla's Moby sweater, because that's a priority to get that finished. But I'm really looking forward to working on this over the Christmas break. It feels like it has been a long time before I made anything for myself. I also, prior to this, made a no frills sweater for Sophie, and it's really lovely to be able to knit, you know, for family and for loved ones and things. But yeah, it will be nice to be able to work on something for me for a change. So I'm really looking forward to sticking on some Christmas films this holidays and making myself a nice snowball and putting my feet up and catching up on some knits. For the longest time, I pretty much lost my sock mojo. There was a period where I was whizzing through pairs of socks. You know, I always had multiple pairs of socks on the needles. If you've been watching my podcast for a long time, you'll know that typically I always have a plain pair of socks on the needles and a patterned pair of socks on the needles. So I've always got that little bit of variety. And yeah, I just lost my sock mojo, and it's been a long time since I've really got into sock knitting. So I have a couple of pairs of socks on the needles at the moment. One of them I had to really have a good route around for, because this is a project that's been abandoned basically. I do plan to finish it. They won't be frogged or anything. I have got them in this lovely project bag. This is an incredibly old project bag. I actually bought this for Sophie when she was younger. I got all excited and I really wanted her to get into crochet and knitting and things, and she did show an interest in it at one point, hence why I bought her this lovely project bag. I don't even know where it's from now. I don't even think the shop still sells it, or is still open. Sorry, I got it from Etsy. I think the seller was called like Nellie Ellie Crafts or something like that. So I came across this project bag sitting in the cupboard, and she's not bothered with it in ages, so I was a bit cheeky, and I said to her, you know, can I pinch that project bag back, please? So I've got a pair of socks in that project bag at the moment. I've just been pleasantly surprised when I've pulled them out, because I'm actually much further on than I thought I was. I didn't think I got past the heel. So yeah, that's a relief. I don't have as much to go on this one as I thought. So these socks, I mean, they look very, very small. That's because they are not for me. They are for Sophie, and I'm using up some yarn to make these. This is some very old stash yarn that I had left over from my Vertices shawl I made a long time ago, and it is Cascade Heritage sock yarn. It's really lovely. I'm not sure how well it holds up for socks. I've actually made a pair of socks using that yarn before, and the pattern had a really nice slip stitch detailing to it, but the yarn has gone so fuzzy it kind of obscures the pattern. So yeah, the jury's out. I'm hoping that these ones will hold up a bit better. If not, then I will probably not be using that sock yarn to knit socks anymore. But this pattern is the Open Socks by Potter and Bloom. I've made a pair of these before for myself. It's a really beautiful pattern. So it starts off with a 1x1 half twisted rib. So you just twist the knit stitches and you'll purl the purls just as normal. And then it just goes down into this beautiful, what's it called? I think it's called an open rib stitch or something like that, but it's incredibly easy to do. It looks like a cable almost, but you don't need a cable needle or anything like that to do it. And the thing that I really like about these socks is how the ribbing goes down into the pattern all the way down the length of the sock. Obviously, because these are for Sophie, I've made them a lot shorter than I would have done for myself, but also I don't have that much yarn. And I've just worked a heel flap and gusset, and I'm not sure what the name for this one is, but it's the heel flap and gusset where it has the garter stitch detailing on the sides, which I really like. I think I should do that more often. It just gives that a little bit something different, doesn't it? As opposed to just a plain regular heel flap and gusset. Yeah, so I did that. I got to about, well, not much past the gusset decreases by the look of it. And then obviously must have got completely distracted or completely bored, or most likely both. And then, yeah, these got shoved in a project bag. So I really do need to get these finished. I probably won't get them done before the end of the year. I've got other projects that I need to concentrate on, but I definitely want to get these finished soon. Obviously, it's now that I'm onto the foot part at the bottom, it's a lot easier, isn't it? Because I'm only doing the pattern on the top part. But yeah, I will pop a link in the description box telling you all of the pattern names and the yarns that I'm using and things like that. So if you want to check any of that out, you can go and have a look down there. So those need finishing off. But I do have another pair of socks on the needles. This is actually a fairly new cast on. I just started these this week, and it's my own pattern, which is really exciting. I, for the longest time, have wanted to find a sock pattern that is kind of in between. And what I mean by that is it's not completely plain, like just knitting a plain vanilla sock, but it's not really difficult and really over the top textured and things. I just wanted something with a nice simple texture, so it's just got that little bit something, you know, a little bit of extra details and things to break things up, and so it's not boring, but also it's still fairly relaxing to knit. I didn't want anything where you have to keep tallies or keep track or anything like that, because although I do make patterns where you have to do that, it's not my idea of a really relaxing project. So I just got completely distracted by the fattest pigeon I've ever seen in my life in the garden. Okay, so let me show you the socks. So I've not done a great deal. This sock set, by the way, which I've lost the mini for, here it is from Loom wool. I bought a couple of Jessie's sock sets recently, fairly recently, and this one is incredibly beautiful and it's called Cappuccino, and it's been sitting and waiting for the right project, and then this week obviously I finally cast it on. So I've started off with a 2x2 half twisted rib. So again, just twisting the knit stitches. So for those of you who don't know, so I've had a comment about this recently, to twist the stitches, you're just knitting through the back loop on the knit stitches basically. And I find that it just makes the ribbing, it just makes it look a lot neater for me personally. I really like how kind of precise it looks. So I've just done that for 15 rounds, which is my regular cuff, and then I've gone into the pattern, and I'll bring it closer so you can have a little look. I'll just move that yarn out of the way. So it's a really nice simple pattern, not difficult to do. It's just got this really nice texture, and I think it looks really pretty. It's worked over an 8-row repeat, which makes it sound complicated, but I promise it isn't. It's really easy. It's worked over an 8-row repeat, but only 2 of those rows are actually in pattern, if that makes sense. So I will be releasing the pattern to that next year once these are done. So yeah, watch this space. I will let you know when these are available, but I'm really liking how these are working up so far. I'm not decided what heel I'm going to work for these yet. I'm not sure whether I'm going to do a traditional heel flap and gusset or whether I'll do a fish lips kiss heel or a different kind of short row heel. I found that heel flap and gussets definitely fit me better, so I suppose I should probably do a heel flap and gusset, and then I could always leave the option in the pattern where you can sub in a different heel if you prefer. I mean, there's no rule, is there, that you have to knit the heel that's in the pattern. I'm not going to come round and have a go at you if you don't do a heel flap and gusset or anything. So yeah, I suppose you could add any heel that you wanted into that. I have just got one more project that I'm going to share with you today. I also have a couple of very long-term crochet projects on the go. I'm not going to chat about those today, and maybe will in the future. But yeah, we'll stick to knitting just for this episode, I think, because this is all pretty much new stuff, I think, as well, since last time we chatted. But I was recently gifted some yarn from Symfonie yarns. They sent me 2 skeins. One of the skeins I used to make a December bow, which is actually finished now, but I will pop a picture in or a little video so that you can see. And the other skein that they sent me was in this really lovely shade called Plum Denim, and I chose this shade because I have a dark blue winter coat and I wanted to make a pair of mittens to match my coat, and it's really beautiful. So you can buy this yarn commercially, but it is hand dyed. I'm using their DK, it's their Extrafine Merino. Again, I'll pop all of the details down into the description box underneath this video. So any questions, check that out. If your question's not answered in there, just leave me a comment and I'll get back to you. So I originally started a pair of maze mitts with this, which is a free pattern by Tin Can Knits. It's a really lovely pattern. I just wasn't feeling it. I can't really explain why. I might make a pair of those again in the future or something. I got about halfway through the first mitten and I just kind of thought, yeah, I'm not feeling this. So I ended up frogging that, and I've started a hat instead. So this is something that, I can still wear with my winter coat. So it's all still good. And the hat that I'm making is a classic ribbed beanie by Purl Soho. This is an incredibly popular pattern. I've made one before for Isla a very long time ago. back when I originally started podcasting, I think, the very first time I originally started, because I actually had a break and then came back. So it was the very first time. So if you've been here, you know, watching me for a very long time, you might remember. So, whoops. So it's that same pattern, and this is how it's looking at the moment. So it's a very, very simple and plain pattern, and it's just 1 by 1 rib. And I mean, when I say it's simple, it really is. You cast on the required number of stitches. It comes in all different sizes. I think it goes from toddler up to large adult. I might be wrong, it might not be toddler, it might be child, but anyway, it comes in a variety of sizes. You cast on however many stitches, and you go straight into 1 by 1 ribbing, and you just do that for the entire way until it's long enough basically, and then you just decrease to finish it. So this measures about 7 inches tall at the moment, and it needs to be 8 inches. So I am very, very close to finishing, to getting to those decreases, which I'm looking forward to, because I have a sweater in my yarn, in my project queue, that I'm really excited to cast on, and I can't cast it on because I need this 40cm cable that this hat's on. So I really want to get it done so I can make a start on that. But if I bring it close, I think you can see all the lovely variation in the yarn. It's a really beautiful colour. The yarn's lovely. The only thing I will say is it is slightly splitty, although I will say this skein has actually been a lot less splitty than the other one that I used. I think it depends what you're doing with it. With the last project that I made, it had a lot of increases and decreases and things in there, and that was the part that I found that the splitting was an issue with. Whereas this one, because it's just plain kind of knits and purls, not so much. But if I bring it up close, I don't think you can see, it just wants to show my head, doesn't it? But yeah, I don't think it's going to show. But with the other yarn, when you kind of unspun it, it untwisted a lot. And I don't think this colour doesn't seem to be as bad. So perhaps it depends on the dye lot, or the shade, sorry, that you're using. So that is all of my current knitting projects. So if you know me, you will know that I have very, very few knitting projects at the moment. I normally have loads. I've really been working hard. I think once it got to kind of October, November time, I've really been working hard to get things finished, because I don't want to start 2025 with loads and loads of old projects. I'd quite like to start with a clean slate. I think that's the dream, isn't it? I won't achieve it, definitely, not 100%. I'll still be taking some projects forward with me, but hopefully not all of them. So I am going to come back in the new year. I have some exciting plans, some things that I've got queued that I'm going to cast on, but also some patterns that I've got in process and things that I'm looking forward to sharing with you. So I'm going to go, but before I do, I want to wish you all a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, and thank you so much for watching and for your support over the past year for my little channel, and I will see you all again soon. Take care everyone, bye!